try not to gag. We got to talk about Chris Cuomo. Cuomo the homo. Well, I don't know about that part, but we got to talk about Chris Cuomo. Okay. Chris Cuomo is back in the news for some comments he made. He also has been kicked out of legacy media and is trying to hack it in independent media. But he made some comments about Laken Riley that really ticked me off. Let's watch.
The division is almost exclusively manufactured. We are fighting over culture issues and controversies that are completely made up. We divide this country over a single homicide of somebody, and it's absolutely wrong. What happened to Laken Riley is horrible. It's one too many, any way you want to look at it. But it is also an artificial issue. We have crime issues in this country. Our homicide problem is not from illegal immigrants, okay? Yeah, but there shouldn't be any. There shouldn't be any of a lot of things that we haven't made a top priority.
Chris Cuomo, come in close, sweetheart. You are a beta male bitch boy. Let's put out an APB, an all points bulletin, to locate your balls. Chris Cuomo, you're an embarrassment, and you sound like an idiot, okay? Saying these are cultural issues, that's what Democrats have done to Republicans and independents for years. You will bring up a valid concern. Young women who are being killed, who are being raped, maimed, and murdered by illegal migrants Joe Biden let in. You will bring that up, and the Democrats, because let's face it, Chris Cuomo is still a Democrat elite, they will go out there and say, those are cultural issues. You're bringing up cultural issues. You're not supposed to talk about cultural issues. No, these are the facts. So you can try to dismiss them as cultural issues. And my question for Chris Cuomo is this. I believe he's a father. I believe he has daughters. If he doesn't, I'm sure he has nieces. You think one dead girl is fine? Couple of dead girls, that's fine with Chris Cuomo. That is basically what Chris Cuomo said. He has not issued an apology. I have not seen one statement from you, sir, expressing contrition for the comments you made. You know who probably didn't like those comments? Laken Riley's family, Jocelyn Nungari's family, the countless other women who have been raped, maimed, murdered by illegal migrants that were let into the country by Joe Biden's open border policy. So Chris Cuomo, you are a joke. You are an absolute joke. We can also talk about men and women's sports. I'm sure you think that's a cultural issue. We're being divided over like cultural issues, you guys. You sound like a freaking idiot, Chris Cuomo. I'm not going to cuss because my mom's Bible study is watching. Hello, ladies. How are you doing? But the fact that you think, oh, a couple of girls are losing out on scholarships to men who are infiltrating their sports teams. Oh, a couple of girls have brain damage because they were forced to compete against men. Let's talk about Peyton McNabb. You think that's okay, Chris Cuomo? You think a couple of girls getting the shit beat out of them, getting raped and murdered is fine, and it's a cultural issue that's being used to divide this country. And that is the way the Democrats talk down to voters the last 4 years, and it's why you got your asses handed to you in this last election, sweetheart. It's why people went and voted for President Trump overwhelmingly, okay, every single swing state, the popular vote, the House and the Senate, because they want common sense. And because President Trump, he did not look down on Americans. President Trump has never looked down on Americans and said, you know what, that's just a cultural issue. I don't care. He listens, right? He's a marketing guy. He had a hit TV show. He's a producer. President Trump listens and he says, you know what? Americans are telling me they don't want men and women's sports. Got it. We're going to handle that. They're telling me they don't want any more of Joe Biden's open border policies. The data shows that. The New York Times data shows a majority of Americans want to deport violent criminals. But Chris Cuomo, maybe you're not even reading the New York Times because you're a freaking idiot. Maybe you're illiterate, but I have absolutely no respect for you. The fact that you would invoke Laken Riley's name, a girl who was brutally murdered by an illegal migrant criminal who should not have been in this country, you invoke her name for some political points on your podcast, and then you say, oh, it's just a cultural issue. You should not have a platform whatsoever, okay? You've shown that you're basically a little Democrat shill. You're the same person you were on CNN when you were pushing everybody to stay inside and lock down and not get together with their friends and family during COVID. That is exactly who you are, Chris Cuomo, and you clearly haven't changed. So I wish your daughters well. I hope they are safe on the street. I hope your wife is safe on the street. But for you to dismiss all of these things as just cultural issues that are dividing the country, no, they're issues that are somewhat dividing the country, but they're not cultural issues. And I also have to say, when it comes to men and women's sports and these things you say are dividing the country, they're 80-20 issues. They're really not the ones that are dividing the country. It's you who's dividing the country for ratings and clicks on your little tiny web show.